What happens when a mayor lies so boldly that even the bank starts looking shady? Welcome to the political circus that is Tiffany Henyard's administration, where the lies are loud, the outfits are louder, and somehow the bank is cashing checks with no signatures. You heard that right. No signature. Not a scribble, not a squiggle, nothing. And yet, bam, the check goes through. Makes you wonder, is the fraud just in the office, or does it go deeper? But don't worry, that's just the appetizer. Because while the village is drowning in confusion and chaos, salaries are being padded like couch cushions. Mayor Henyard allegedly gives her friends raises they never earned, slashes departments she doesn't like, and best part, shows up dressed like a cow while doing it. You really can't make this stuff up. This isn't just your usual political scandal. It's a tangled mess of arrogance, mismanagement, and flat-out absurdity. And the more she talks, the deeper the hole gets. So grab your seat, because today, we're unpacking the boldest lies, the biggest budget games, and the bizarre world of Mayor Tiffany Henyard. And trust me, it only gets weirder from here. So let's start with the jaw-dropper. Tiffany Henyard claims that checks from the village were being cashed without her signature. Now, if you've ever written a check in your life, you know that's not how banks work. No signature, no money. It's check writing 101. But apparently, in the world of Tiffany Henyard, the rules just don't apply. Or maybe they apply differently depending on who's involved. But wait, it gets better. Not only was her signature missing, but the clerk's wasn't on there either. According to village law, 2 signatures are required before any check can be cashed. One of them must be from the clerk. That's not a suggestion, it's policy. So how on earth were these checks going through? You start to wonder, is this just gross negligence from the bank? Or is it something more, something a little shadier? Henyard tries to brush it off, saying the clerk is just a notary and doesn't need to be on the check. But here's the thing, that's just not true. There are resolutions and ordinances in place, clearly outlining the signature protocol. The clerk even stepped in during the meeting to clarify her signature must be on every check. And she doesn't need permission. It's literally part of her job. So what's happening here? Did the bank suddenly forget how checks work? Did they overlook the missing signatures over and over again? Or, and here's where it gets sticky, is someone inside the bank helping these checks slide through? That's the theory starting to float around. And honestly, it's not far when checks with no authorization keep getting cashed, and those same checks happen to benefit the mayor or her circle. You start looking at the whole operation sideways. It's giving fraud. It's giving inside job. And the audacity with which Henyard says it like it's no big deal is what really makes it wild. She casually mentions that the checks were processed without anything on them. Not a fake name, not a scribble, not even a joke signature like Seymour Butts. Just blank. And somehow, the bank says, yep, looks good to us. This isn't just incompetence. This is a system that's either completely broken or deliberately manipulated. But as wild as that sounds, it's just the beginning. Because the deeper we dig, the more twisted this whole mess becomes, and the lies, oh, they get bolder. If you thought the check scandal was wild, buckle up, because now we're talking about money that doesn't even exist. During a heated budget meeting, Mayor Tiffany Henyard boldly accused the deputy clerk of receiving a $15,000 raise. That's right, not $1,500. Not a bonus, but a full-blown $15,000 pay increase. And she didn't whisper it, either. She threw it out to the public like it was a fact carved in stone. But here's the catch, it never happened. The village clerk, the actual person in charge of payroll documentation, stepped up and calmly clarified the truth. Yes, the raise was proposed and even approved by the board, but the deputy clerk never received a single dime of it. No adjustment, no back pay, nothing. The number that Henyard paraded around like some kind of proof of favoritism, pure fiction. So, why lie about it? This isn't just a mix-up or a misunderstanding. This is a mayor in a public meeting, knowingly spreading misinformation to paint a narrative that doesn't hold up under the slightest scrutiny. It's not just sloppy, it's calculated. A stunt designed to turn the heat away from her own shady spending and redirect attention towards someone else. But let's be real. What's more dangerous than a lie? A confident one. Henyard doesn't stutter. She doesn't blink. She tells these lies like she believes them. And maybe that's the scariest part. When you lie so often and so boldly, maybe you really start to believe your own alternate reality. Or maybe it's not about belief at all. Maybe it's about deflection. The more outrageous the accusation, the less time people spend asking questions about the mayor's financial habits. You accuse someone else of pocketing money, and suddenly your multiple roles, padded salaries, and budget gymnastics fade into the background. But the truth, it always finds its way out. The clerk made it clear. The raise was authorized, but never delivered. The books don't lie, even if the mayor does. And in that moment, you can almost feel the tension shift, because now it's not just a matter of who's being overpaid, it's about how many lies have been dressed up as facts. And when lies become this casual, the budget starts to look like a game. One where the rules change depending on who's playing, and Tiffany Henyard is always trying to be the house. Now let's talk about the budget, or whatever. Tiffany Henyard thinks a budget is because, under her leadership, it's not about needs, priorities, or logic. It's about favoritism. Budgets are getting slashed or bloated depending on who's in her inner circle. Friends get raises, critics get cuts, and departments that actually do the work, they get choked out of funding like they're a personal threat. Take the communications department, for example. Originally budgeted at $82,000, suddenly slashed to $70,000, a $12,000 cut. Why? No explanation. Just arbitrary belt-tightening. Unless, of course, you realize the real reason might be who runs that department, or rather, who doesn't. Because when it comes to Henyard's own pockets, she's not shy about making room. She's reportedly given herself multiple titles across different departments, which conveniently means multiple paychecks. Why hire a qualified person when you can just clone yourself on paper and cash in from every direction? And this isn't a one-off dot in one breath. She argues that the maintenance budget is being unfairly reduced, claiming one guy is doing the work of an entire crew, but then, in another line item, she's requesting tens of thousands for the exact same type of repairs under a different department name. It's like budgeting in a funhouse mirror. You're never sure if you're looking at a real expense or a financial illusion. Need emergency repairs for a firehouse? That's one line item. Need maintenance on that same building? That's a separate budget. Need a backup plan for repairs on top of the backup plan? Boom, another fund. It's the same job, just spread out into multiple envelopes, each one harder to track and easier to abuse. And then there's the blatant contradiction. One moment she's slashing salaries to balance the budget, and the next she's throwing six figures at departments she created herself, like her emergency services group, whose main job seems to be moving concrete blocks around town on her command, blocks that just happened to shut down a car show that was competing with her event. You can't make this stuff up. At every turn, the numbers don't add up. They don't follow logic. They follow loyalty. And anyone watching closely can see that this isn't a village government. It's a financial chessboard where Tiffany is trying to checkmate the entire board while keeping herself the queen. And the deeper you go, the more it reeks of manipulation. Numbers bent, departments twisted, and money moved like pieces in a game she thinks no one is smart enough to notice. If you thought the budget couldn't get more bizarre, just wait until you meet the Emergency Services and Disaster Agency, or, as Tiffany Henyard describes, them, the team that blocks roads so the police don't have to. Sounds official, right? Until you realize she's budgeted $200,000 for what amounts to a part-time group of brick movers, on call occasionally when she feels like it. This isn't a full-time rescue team. These aren't paramedics. They're the people you see dropping giant concrete blocks in front of driveways, entrances, and anywhere Henyard decides someone needs to be shut down, literally, and based. On what we've seen, she's not using them to protect the village. She's using them to settle petty scores. Take the infamous car show incident. A local organizer had been hosting an annual car show for years, a huge hit, beloved by the community. But this year, Henyard planned her own event on the exact same day, a competing concert-like party she wanted to boost attendance for. So what did she do? She sent in her emergency services team to block off the car show lot overnight, without warning. Massive concrete blocks parked like a barricade, effectively canceling the entire event. Why? Because she couldn't get the car show organizer to move his event to her venue. When he refused, she made sure his wouldn't happen at all. That's not public service. That's power abuse. That's using taxpayer-funded muscle to punish someone for not going along with her plans. And now she wants $200,000 to keep that team ready, just in case she wants to cancel another event, block another driveway, or flex on a neighbor who doesn't clap when she walks in the room. And let's not forget, these aren't even full-time staff. They're on-call, part-time, meaning they only come out when she calls. So why pay a full-time budget for a group that shows up a few times a year unless their job isn't really about emergencies at all? It's not public safety, it's personal enforcement. And while residents struggle with real needs like funding for youth programs, housing support, or neighborhood repairs, Henyard's tossing 6 figures at her own private barricade crew, just so she can play queen of the village, one concrete block at a time. But this isn't just about power plays. It's about ego and how far someone will go to protect their image, even if it means bulldozing the truth. And the people who stand in her way. Every government budget has a miscellaneous section, a little cushion for the unexpected. But in Tiffany Henyard's hands, that cushion turned into a bottomless pit. A whopping $65,000 was tucked into the miscellaneous category, with zero transparency, no receipts, no breakdown, just a vague note that it's for things that might come up. So naturally, the question is, what actually came up? Well, let's start with what residents did see. Tiffany Henyard's face on just about every streetlight in Dalton, slick, full-color banners strung from poles like some dystopian campaign poster. Locals didn't ask for them. Vendors allegedly weren't even paid. And yet, they were up. In bulk. So where'd the money for that come from? Then there's the infamous wig situation. Yep, people started talking when Henyard appeared in public with a suspiciously pricey hairpiece. Reports claimed it cost upwards of $1,200, and someone had to foot that bill. Now, no one's saying that the miscellaneous fund was a dedicated wig budget, but when you have tens of thousands stashed away with no paper trail, anything possible, and this wig, let's be honest, it didn't even look real. Locals started joking that it was held together with fishing wire, not lace front, not salon quality, fishing wire. And yet somehow, this mystery purchase aligned perfectly with the timeline of her miscellaneous spending. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's the kind of coincidence that makes taxpayers reach for their pitchforks. But let's give Henyard the benefit of the doubt for a second. When asked directly about the fund, she actually tried to explain it. Her words, "The miscellaneous category was for things I want to do. Not for emergency needs, not for unplanned village expenses. No things she personally wants to do." Imagine running a public budget like it's your own Amazon wish list. She even compared it to decorations in towns like Tinley Park and Bolingbrook, places with actual budgets, planning, and accountability. But in Dalton, things just appear. And when vendors come asking for payment, crickets. So whether it was streetlight, self-promotion, or overpriced hair accessories, the truth is that money is gone, and no one seems to know where it went. There's no documentation, no invoices, just disappearing funds and a trail of bizarre purchases that make the whole town look like it's trapped in a bad reality show. And if you thought that was sloppy, wait until you see how she explains it all, because the excuses somehow make the scandals even worse. Now let's talk about one of the most obvious red flags in Tiffany Henyard's entire financial circus. The maintenance budgets, that's right, plural, because for reasons that make zero sense, unless you're running a scam, Henyard listed 3 separate line items in the budget, all doing the exact same job. Let's break it down first. There's a $90,000 fund for emergency repairs, things like fixing a broken furnace at the firehouse or replacing something at the police station. Sounds reasonable on the surface. Until you realize there's another line item labeled building maintenance right beneath it. That one's asking for more money for the same buildings. And just when you think maybe it's a clerical error, here comes round 3. A third budget labeled for general repairs tied to the same departments, all separate amounts, all justified as if they're unrelated, but they are. They're all just maintenance with 3 different price tags attached. Now, let's pause. Here, either Tiffany Henyard genuinely doesn't understand how budgeting works, or she understands it too well. Because this isn't just messy, it's calculated confusion. When you split one job across 3 different accounts, it gets harder. for anyone to track where the money's actually going, harder to question, harder to trace, and much easier to hide behind vague labels like repairs or emergency expenses. And that's exactly what's happening. Even as she complains that maintenance workers are overwhelmed and need more support, she's already allocated hundreds of thousands across overlapping departments. Her argument: Scott is burned out. He's doing the work of an entire team. Okay, so where's the team? Who else is being paid? What happened to the original $169,000 before it was cut to $100,000? Why do you need 3 pools of money if it's just one guy doing the work? And the best part? One of the line items she referenced, the one supposedly for maintenance, was cut, and she immediately claimed it meant the village had no money to fix the furnace. But if she was being honest, the next budget line, the one right after, already covered that exact scenario. She literally exposed her own scam mid-sentence. It's either gross incompetence or a masterclass in misdirection. Either way, the result is the same: confusion, hidden spending, and a trail of taxpayer dollars vanishing into thin air. And all of it delivered with the kind of arrogance that assumes no one's watching closely. But here's the truth: we are watching, and even her own explanations betray the scam. Because eventually, even the best liar forgets which lie they told last. After all the chaos, contradictions, and budgetary gymnastics, the room finally got a dose of reality, and it came straight from the village clerk. No costumes, no theatrics, no inflated salary claims, just facts, cold, clear, and calm. The clerk, who had been sitting quietly through Henyard's hour-long budget fantasy, finally stood up and addressed the mess head-on. First, she shut down the biggest lie of the night: the claim that the deputy clerk had received a $15,000 raise. Nope, didn't happen. Was approved, yes, but never paid out. And just like that, one of Henyard's loudest accusations collapsed like a cheap wig in a windstorm. Then came the second punch: the check-signing scandal. Henyard had been screaming that the clerk doesn't need to be on the checks, that the bank keeps cashing them without her, that she's just a notary. But the clerk, she pulled out ordinance law, village policy, clear procedures. She explained with surgical precision that checks require 2 signatures, one of which is hers, and not only does she have the right, she has the responsibility to vet every check before it goes out. Boom. 2 of Henyard's loudest talking points obliterated in under 2 minutes. But Henyard didn't even blink. Instead of owning up, she tried to translate the clerk's statement as if the truth needed her personal interpretation. You could practically hear the mental gymnastics gears grinding. You don't need the clerk on the check, she insisted, as if she could rewrite village law with sheer confidence. She's just a notary. It was almost impressive in the way a magician keeps, pulling scarves out of a hat even after the audience sees the trapdoor, and that's when the tone shifted. What started as a budget meeting had now become a masterclass in arrogant lying. Not just lying, arrogant lying. That kind where the liar is so deep in the performance, they act offended when you question them. Like, you're the problem for not buying it. It's the kind of arrogance that turns a bad mare into a dangerous one. Because when someone can lie that confidently, with a straight face, in public, in front of people who know the truth, it's no longer just incompetence. It's delusion. And delusion mixed with unchecked power is a recipe for disaster. But Tiffany Henyard's unraveling doesn't stop here, because now that the lies are stacking up and people like the clerk are starting to speak out, the dominoes are falling fast, and the fallout may be bigger than expected. After everything we've seen from phantom raises to triple maintenance budgets and checks allegedly cashed without a single signature, there's only one question left to ask: is the FBI watching? Think about it. One of the biggest red flags in this whole mess is the bank. Why would any bank cash a check with no signature? Not one from the mayor, not one from the clerk, just a blank check sliding through like it's business as usual. That's not just sloppy, that's suspicious. And when stuff like that starts piling up, banks don't just sit back, they protect themselves. And what's the best way to protect yourself from a shady government client? Which is exactly what this bank did. And now, there's growing speculation that they didn't just walk away quietly. That maybe, just maybe, federal investigators are involved. Because when multiple checks with missing or unauthorized signatures go through, and you've Got a mayor accused of financial mismanagement left and right, it stops being a small-town scandal. It becomes a federal concern. And let's be real, if the FBI isn't already watching, this kind of public, reckless arrogance is bound to catch up eventually. Henyard lies so confidently, it almost feels like she believes it herself. But even the most delusional leader can't outrun paper trails, video recordings, and banking records. Because when you lie in private, it's one thing. When you lie in public and get called out on the record, someone's going to pay attention. And the moment they do, that's when the walls close in. Tiffany Henyard might still be smiling in public. She might still have her banners up on every streetlight and her name on every budget line. But all it takes is one signatureless check. To blow the whole thing open, when the lies are this public, the consequences can't stay private for long. If you think this is wild now, wait until the next bombshell drops, because we're just scratching the surface. More lies, more receipts, and more heat is coming. So, hit that subscribe button, share this video, and buckle up. This saga is far from over.